is my audience. This is my cousin Emilia, my aunt Laura, and on Zoom I have my uncle Colin and my mother Jennifer and her boyfriend Joe. Emilia will be taking over as in-person. Imagine a world where women can't vote. They can't get an Ivy League education. They can't join the military or even simply wear pants. While unthinkable today, this is the world that Eleanor Roosevelt was born into. My interest in Eleanor Roosevelt began when I was just 7 years old. I had to write a book report for school, and I picked out a book on our former First Lady. While my teacher thought it would be too difficult, I managed to not only read it, but fall in love with Eleanor's strength and courage. Her mission was to right wrongs and to change the way that women were seen in America. Throughout all the adversity facing women of the time, she challenged the societal norms of the day and used her privileged position to advocate for all womankind. Born in 1884 to parents Anna and Elliot Roosevelt, she was a shy and awkward child. By the time she was 8 years old, both of her parents had passed away, and she was living with her grandmother. And during her teenage years, she spent most of her time away at school in England, and when she returned home, she got engaged to her distant cousin, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. In 1905, the pair wed, and within 11 years, Eleanor bore 6 children. She later recalled this experience in her autobiography, stating, "I was fitting pretty well into the pattern of a fairly conventional, quiet, young society matron. However, this wouldn't last." Post-World War I, she made a change. While she hadn't actively participated in the women's suffrage movement prior to the ratification of the 19th Amendment, she joined the League of Women Voters in 1920. This was followed by her membership to the Women's Trade Union League in 1922 and membership to the Women's Division of the New York Democratic Party in 1923. She was committed to changing the way that women were seen in politics, and in 1924 was appointed to chair a committee on women's issues by the Democratic National Convention. She later recalled that there she learned for the first time where women stood when it came to a national convention. She said, "I shortly discovered that they were of little importance. They stood outside the door of all important meetings and waited." This didn't stop her, however, and her female colleagues worked hard to make sure that women were heard. By 1936, they had successfully produced 219 female delegates and 302 female alternates. After her husband became president in 1933, she became determined to change the role of First Lady. While she did what was expected of her by entertaining and standing by her husband's side, she also went against precedent to travel the country, give press conferences, and give lectures. While she had her supporters, she also had her critics. Arguably her biggest was a man named Westbrook Pegler, who once said of her, "I have been accused of rudeness to Miss Roosevelt, when I only said that she was impudent, presumptuous, and conspiratorial, and that her withdrawal from public life at this time would be a great public service." She didn't let the critics stop her, however, and as she once said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." She continued to pave the way not only for women in the White House, but in the entirety of the United States. She regularly wrote a weekly column in the Women's Home Companion, wrote 6 books, including one titled "It's Up to the Woman," and held weekly press conferences, which she only allowed women reporters to cover. Eleanor continued her work even after her husband's death in 1945. She was appointed as a delegate to the United Nations, chaired JFK's President's Commission on the Status of Women, and worked on the Equal Pay Act. She remained one of the most respected women for decades after her death, and today remains highly looked up to by generation after generation. Looking back on all her accomplishments, it's no wonder that she's considered one of the godmothers of modern feminism. She was a lioness that broke away from the pack. She was compassionate, courageous, and committed. While there are still issues that face women to this day, Without Eleanor, we may not have made as many strides toward gender equality as we have today. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence with every experience in which you stop to look fear in the face." You are able to say to yourself, "I lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along." You must do the thing you think you cannot do. Cool. Okay. That felt like it was not 5 minutes.